The message came 3 days before the wedding. Not a call, not a conversation, just a message.
Short.
Controlled, carefully written in a way that made it sound reasonable instead of what it actually was. I think it's better if you don't come. I read it once, then again, not because I didn't understand it, but because of how easily it was said. Like removing me from one of the most important days of her life was just an adjustment. A small correction to make everything else look right. I didn't reply immediately, because tone matters, timing matters, and sometimes silence says more than anything else you could type. A few minutes later, another message came. It's just that the event is going to be very high class, a certain kind of atmosphere. There it was. Not direct, but clear enough. I leaned back slightly, staring at the screen, letting the words settle into something real. Because this wasn't just about a wedding.
It was about perception.
It always was with her. Ever since we were young, she had understood something I hadn't cared about back then. That how things looked mattered more than what they actually were. That image could be shaped, controlled, curated, and if you did it well enough, people wouldn't question what was underneath. And now, I didn't fit that image. You'll understand, the final message said. It's not personal. Of course it was personal. Things like that always are. I typed a reply, deleted it, typed another, deleted that too. Because nothing I could say would change what she had already decided. And more importantly, I didn't need to change it. Okay, I sent. Just one word.
No emotion.
No resistance.
No explanation.
That was enough. Because reactions give people something to work with. They create space for justification, for defense, for more conversation. Silence closes it. The next few days passed quietly. No follow-up. No attempt to soften what had been said. Just distance. Intentional, structured distance that made everything feel final without ever needing to say it out loud. From the outside, everything was moving forward perfectly. Her wedding was becoming exactly what she wanted it to be. Elegant, controlled, carefully designed down to the smallest detail. The kind of event people talk about not because of how it feels, but because of how it looks. I knew the venue well. Not because I had attended events there before, but because I had chosen it. Months earlier, before any of this, before the invitations, before the image became more important than the people in it. She had shown me options back then, scrolling through photos, comparing spaces, asking for opinions without really asking for them. This one feels right, she had said, stopping on a large, modern venue just outside the city. Clean architecture, expensive lighting, the kind of place that didn't just host events, it elevated them. It's perfect, she added. I had agreed, not because of how it looked, but because I already understood something she didn't. Control doesn't come from being invited. It comes from what you own. The booking process had been simple.
Direct.
Professional. Contracts reviewed. Payments structured. Everything handled quietly, efficiently, without drawing attention. She never asked how it was finalized so quickly. She didn't need to. From her perspective, things just worked. The days leading up to the wedding, I stayed out of everything. No calls, no messages, no attempts to reconnect. I let the distance remain exactly the way she wanted it, because interference ruins timing. On the morning of the wedding, the city felt unusually still. Not empty, not quiet, just settled, like everything was waiting for something to happen without knowing what it was. I got ready without rushing.
No urgency.
No pressure. Just precision. The kind that comes when you already know how things are going to unfold. I arrived at the venue early. Not as a guest. As something else entirely. The staff recognized me immediately. Not by name. Not by face. But by position. By the way they adjusted their tone, their posture. The the way they spoke without needing explanation. "Everything is prepared," the event manager said, just as requested. I nodded once. "Good," I replied, because it was. Exactly as planned. Outside, guests began to arrive. Expensive cars, formal attire, conversations layered with the kind of politeness that always feels slightly rehearsed. Everything looked perfect, exactly the way she wanted. Inside, everything was already different. By the time the ceremony began, everything looked exactly the way she had imagined it. Perfect lighting, perfect timing, perfect alignment of every small detail that made the entire event feel expensive without needing to say it out loud. Guests were seated, conversations softened into silence, and the music settled into the background like it had always been there. From the outside, it was flawless, and that's what mattered to her. I stayed just out of view, near the back corridor that connected the main hall to the service area. Not hiding, not avoiding, just positioned. Because this wasn't about making an entrance. It was about making a moment. The ceremony moved forward without interruption. Vows exchanged. Applause followed. Cameras captured everything she wanted the world to see. Every angle, every smile, every carefully constructed second of a perfect day. And for a while, it worked, because perception, when managed well, can hold together almost anything. The reception was where it mattered. That's where the attention shifts, where people move, talk, interact, where control becomes harder to maintain and details start to matter more than presentation. The main hall filled quickly. Music rose slightly. Conversations layered over each other, forming that familiar atmosphere of celebration that feels effortless when it's actually anything but. She moved through the room confidently, greeting guests, accepting compliments, reinforcing the image she had worked so carefully to build. Everything about her said control, until it didn't. It started small. The event manager approached her quietly, speaking in a tone that was meant to be discreet. Professional, controlled. But there was something underneath it, something that didn't belong in a moment like this. Her expression shifted slightly. Not enough for everyone to notice, but enough. She leaned in closer, asking something. The manager responded. A pause followed. Then another question. This time, there was no easy answer. I stepped forward. Not quickly, not dramatically, just enough to enter the space at exactly the right moment. She saw me immediately, and for a second, nothing else existed. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice low, sharp, controlled in a way that was already starting to slip. I didn't answer right away. I looked around the room once.
The guests.
The setup, the structure she had built so carefully. Then back at her. "I came to check on things," I said calmly. "You weren't invited," she replied. "I know," I said. A pause. Long enough for the tension to settle into something real. "Then you need to leave," she added, her tone tightening. "This isn't the place for me." I finished.
She didn't respond.
Because the sentence didn't need to be completed. The event manager shifted slightly, unsure whether to step in or step back. Because now, the situation wasn't part of the plan. And plans don't handle disruption well. "There's a problem," the manager said finally, looking between us. "What problem?" she asked, turning back, trying to regain control. The manager hesitated for just a second, then said it. "The venue access has been paused." Silence. Not complete, but heavy enough to feel. "What does that mean?" she asked. "It means," I said, stepping slightly closer, "that the event can't continue without approval." She looked at me again, this time differently. Not dismissive, not controlled, just uncertain. "What are you talking about?" she asked. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a single document.
Clean.
Structured. Final. I handed it to her. She took it slowly, her hands steady, but her expression already starting to shift as she scanned the first lines. Ownership, authorization,
Control.
everything she had never questioned, everything she assumed was hers, everything that wasn't. This isn't funny, she said quietly. I'm not joking, I replied. Another pause. Longer, because now understanding was catching up. You didn't pay for this, she said. I did, I answered. How? She asked. I didn't explain everything. I didn't need to. While you were building the image, I said, I handled the structure behind it. The room around us continued, unaware, conversations still moving, music still playing. But for her, everything had stopped. You can't just, she started. I can, I said calmly, because I already had. And right now, I added, this entire event depends on one thing.
She didn't speak. She didn't need to.
Because she already knew. I let the moment sit for just a second longer, then said it. My approval. The word landed exactly where it needed to. Not loud, not aggressive, but absolute. Her expression changed completely. Not slowly, not subtly, completely. Because for the first time that day, she wasn't in control of the image anymore. What do you want? She asked. The question came out quieter than anything she had said before. Not confident, not certain, just real. I looked at her for a moment, then at the room, then back at her. I want nothing, I said.
And I meant it.
Because this was never about taking anything from her. It was about showing her something. You already made your decision, I continued. I just respected it. Another silence. Because there was nothing left to argue, nothing left to explain, nothing left to control. She wanted a high-class wedding, a perfect image, a carefully curated moment where everything looked exactly the way she needed it to. But what she didn't realize was simple. You can't control the image when you don't control what it stands on.